Hello and welcome to News Central Television. I am Dakbo Adigboye. The top stories at this hour. President Bola Tinubu demands punishment for culprits of Ibadan explosion. Rivers State Assembly clears 9 ex-commissioners for Governor Fubara's cabinet. President Kagame suggests UK could get money back from asylum bill. Details in a moment. For our viewers across Africa and the rest of the world, this is NC Continental Prime. I am Dakbo Adigboye. Our coverage tonight begins in Oyo State, Nigeria, where we understand that the Oyo State Governor Seyi Makinde has disclosed that preliminary investigations by security agencies revealed that the explosion that rocked the Bodija area of Ibadan, the state capital, on Tuesday, was caused by explosive devices stored by illegal miners. The blast, which occurred on Tuesday, resulted in the tragic loss of at least 10 lives and 15 others hospitalized, although the number could rise further.
The devastation here, and from what we've gathered so far, the likelihood is that you have illegal miners firing to explosives around this place. We've always said to people that when you see something, say something, and then the authorities should be able to do something. This is quite unfortunate. At this stage, is just to rescue anyone that is still under the rubble here, and also the people that have been taken to the hospital to give them care, and also some of the people who have their houses destroyed, provide temporary accommodation for them at hotels.
Joining me live from Oyo State is News Central's Bernard Akede. Bernard, glad to have you on the news. And let's get straight to it. What can you tell us about the casualty figures so far? Any update?
Well, so far, like you rightly stated in your introduction, the governor has said that preliminary investigations have commenced. The exact figures as to what we have here is still not exactly clear. We know that we have over 70 injured, and from what the governor said, we have about 10 unfortunate casualties. But from what we saw earlier today, there's reason to believe that casualties may be more than 10, as a matter of fact, because the impact of the explosion was really, really devastating. Information we had earlier had it that the impact affected about 500-meter radius. But going by my calculations, and on our journey down here, we could see that the impact of the explosion did go beyond 500 meters radius, well beyond 500-meter radius. But of course, as the impact moved away from the epicenter, of course, the strength of the impact began to reduce. But that is not to say that people will not also be affected several meters away from the epicenter of the explosion itself. But so far, we're still waiting to get further information from authorities to know how many people actually have been hospitalized because of injuries sustained from the explosion, and how many people unfortunately have passed away. Work was going on all through from last night into today to see if there are people they could rescue from underneath the rubble. But as we speak now, I'm not sure if there's still more work going on at the moment. Way behind me, some like 500 meters, well, say 50 meters, I beg your pardon, behind me is around where the explosion happened. But we have not been allowed to go back there anymore. The area has been cordoned off by security operatives. So this is as far as we can go.
Now, of course, we know that it's been confirmed that this was a bomb explosion. Now, how close are we to knowing, the culprits behind this? Any names yet, or individuals or corporate organizations fingered?
So far, we haven't gotten any names or individuals or persons who will be held culpable for this particular, can we call it a crime? Can we call it an offense? We're not sure yet. But there have been no names released yet. We're still waiting for the authorities to give us names of persons who will be held responsible for this that has happened. But of course, that will come after proper investigation have been concluded. Again, like the governor said, just as you mentioned also, preliminary investigations have commenced. We don't know how long they will take. We don't know what exactly will happen. But one thing we know for sure is that a lot of people are crying out for justice because people have lost property and properties worth hundreds of millions of naira in this estate and beyond the estate.
All right, now what can you tell us about the residents of the estate, their psychological state, and also particularly those that were directly affected by the explosion? How are they, getting along?
That was one thing to watch, these things on social media. Is another thing to be here and feel the pain of the people. I think, where I was pulled almost to tears is when I saw people trying to salvage what was left of their belongings from this place. I mean, 1 minute people were celebrating, living their lives, like one of the eyewitnesses we spoke to earlier. She said 1 minute they were just watching TV in their house, and then the next minute an explosion happened, and they came outside and people were crying, "My house is gone, my home is gone." Another lady we met, a core member, she was just pulling out her things from the rubble. Her house was directly in front of the center of the explosion. And she said immediately the explosion happened, the walls of the house gave way and they were exposed. They could see directly outside, and then there was a cloud of dust from the explosion. She said one of the casualties who passed away was their security guard, and two of our core member colleagues were also very seriously injured. They were picking out their belongings from a pile of dust. That's how touching this incident has been. And now, this estate that used to be lively, with well-to-do Nigerians, living here, it's a ghost town. It's completely empty. Everywhere is dark. Of course, as you would expect, power has been cut off from here. But it is pin drop silence is what we can have here. Just to let you know that people's lives have changed, some forever. They may never get their lives back to normal again.
Okay, is the government of the state saying anything as regards the welfare of these people? I know you did mention that some sort of temporary accommodation will be provided for those affected. Any updates to that in terms of the welfare of those affected and the next line of action?
Sadly, your guess is as good as mine. For now, we haven't gotten anything just yet, except for, like you mentioned, people who are directly affected. The governor said that hotels, guest houses in the area, after they can confirm that these people were directly affected by the blast, that they should grant them accommodation, that the government will pay for that, and that hospitals as well should grant treatment to the injured, open their doors for them, that the government will pay for that as well. But it goes beyond that. I'm looking at vehicles that can never move again. I'm looking at houses that literally would need to be rebuilt again, some that will need to be torn down and then reconstructed again. But that's again if the people would still want to live in this vicinity because of the psychological effect and the trauma that they've gone through. So even if the government is able to compensate them monetarily up to what they lost, nobody can pay for lives lost, and then it's going to be very difficult for them to get over the trauma that they've witnessed here between last night and today.
Bernard Akede, thank you so much. Please stay safe.
Thank you for having me, Dapo. I certainly will.
All right. In the meantime, Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu has expressed sadness over the devastating explosion that occurred on Tuesday night in Ibadan, the Oyo State capital, demanding punishment for those responsible. The explosion killed 2 persons and wounded about 80 others. It also destroyed several buildings, vehicles and other properties in Bodija area of the sprawling city. This was made known in a statement signed by the presidential spokesperson, Ajuri Nganale. President Tinubu commiserates with the government and the people of Oyo State and called on all concerned agencies of government to unravel the circumstances that led to the tragedy. He also directed the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, to work with the Oyo State government to offer immediate and comprehensive relief to the victims. Of course, still on the issue in Ibadan, we understand also that Nigeria's capital, that's Abuja, where the Federal Executive Council has set up a committee to review the laws guiding the control of explosives in the country to determine whether they were violated by illegal miners whose activities led to Tuesday's deadly explosion in Ibadan. The Minister of Defense, Mohammed Abubakar, disclosed this while addressing journalists after the first FEC meeting for 2024, presided over by President Bola Tinubu. According to Badaru, the council expressed worries about the incident and noted the need to avert future occurrences, noting that despite preliminary investigations suggesting that explosives stored by illegal miners may have been the cause, there was also suspicion in some quarters that gas may have been to blame. Let's move to political matters now, where the Supreme Court in Nigeria has adjourned ruling on the appeal by the New Nigeria People's Party against the Taraba State Governor, Kefas Agbu. The NNPP and its governorship candidate, Professor Yahya Sani, are contesting the victory of Agbu and the People's Democratic Party in the March 18th governorship elections in the state. The Court of Appeal in Abuja had affirmed the election of Agbu as the state governor. The appellate court held that the allegations of non-compliance, irregularities and other malpractices were not proven by the appellants in line with the provisions of the law. After listening to the council's arguments, the five-member panel led by Justice Kudirat Kekere-Reekun reserved judgment on the matter. Let's stay with political matters, where we also understand that Rivers State House of Assembly in Nigeria has rescreened and cleared all 9 former commissioners who resigned from Governor Sim Fubara's cabinet in the wake of the political impasse rocking the state. The commissioners had, in November last year, tendered their resignation letters amidst the face-off between Fubara and his predecessor, former Governor Nyesom Wike, now Minister of the Federal Capital Territory. However, Fubara, a few days ago, resubmitted the names of the 9 nominees to the State House of Assembly for clearance. During plenary on Wednesday, the former commissioners were not subjected to any questions as they were asked to take a bow and leave the chamber.
1. Zacchaeus Adango, SAN, DSSRS. 2. Dr. Jacobson Mbina, DSSRS. 3. Dr. Gifts Wallo. 4. Mrs. Inime Chinwenwo Aguma, DSSRS. 5. Engineer Chukwemeka Woke, FNSC, DSSRS. Professor Prince Chinedu Mom, JP, DSSRS. 7. Dr. George Kelly D. Alabo, FNIQS, DSSRS. 8. Honorable Isaac Kamalu, DSSRS. And lastly, the 9th name is Engineer Austin Ben Shoma, DSSRS. Thank you for the kind consideration of my request by the House, and please accept, Mr. Speaker, the assurance of my highest regards. Sir Simlaye Kubara, GSS.
Meanwhile, the Speaker of the Rivers State House of Assembly, Martin Amaule, has accused staff of Government House of refusing to receive communication from the House to the Governor. Now, according to him, if such continues, the House will also stop receiving communication from the office of the Governor.
In the recent past, that staff of Government House choose to send communication to us from the Governor, but refuse to take the one to the Governor from us. And let me place it on record, so that it will be recorded in the hands that the staff of Government House, who was sent by the Governor to bring this letter to us, brought this letter, and when he was asked to receive a letter to the Governor, he declined to collect. So they prefer to send communication to us, but refuse to take communication from us. And I need this thing to be on record and let it be in the hands that the staff who brought this communication refused to take communication meant for the Governor. And we have resorted to courier services to be sending mails to the governor. And it's important that we let Rivers people know that this is the situation. But we remain undeterred and we'll continue to do our work. If this continues, a situation where the office of the governor will refuse to take communication from us, we will also stop receiving communication from the governor. And it's good that we make this very, very clear. The same election, on the same day we ran to serve Rivers people, in the same election they also ran to be in the office. And we need to work for the...
We'll go on a quick break. When we return, we have more stories. Stay with us. The Federal High Court in Abuja on Thursday declared null and void the provisions of the Nigerian Broadcasting Code authorizing the National Broadcasting Commission, NBC, to impose fines on broadcast stations for alleged breaches of the code. Now, the court ruled that the administrative and regulatory bodies could not exercise judicial powers. Delivering judgment in a suit instituted by Media Rights Agenda, MRA, against NBC following the Commission's imposition of fines of 5 million naira each on a television station and 3 pay TV platforms in 2022 for allegedly undermining Nigeria's national security by broadcasting documentaries on banditry in Nigeria. Justice Rita Ofili held that the NBC, not being a court of law, acted above its powers by imposing such fines. The judge commended MRA for its legal challenge of the NBC's action and issued an order of perpetual injunction restraining the Commission or anyone acting on its behalf from further imposing any fine or any media platform or broadcast station in Nigeria for any alleged offense committed under the Nigerian Broadcasting Code. To discuss this, we are joined by Hasim Akinreti, a former chairman, Nigerian Union of Journalists, Lagos State chapter. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, it's a pleasure.
All right. Now, how do you foresee this particular court ruling impacting the regulatory landscape for broadcast stations in Nigeria, particularly in terms of the National Broadcasting Commission's ability to enforce compliance with the Nigeria Broadcasting Code?
I think it's an interesting development, and it also speaks to the fact that there is rule of law in Nigeria, and of course, anytime anyone is aggrieved, the court is the last bastion, the last hope for the common man, as the saying goes. And for the media, I think it's also a victory for those who have been advocating that NBC should only be a regulator, but they can't have judicial powers. So the court has clearly stated that yes, you can regulate the broadcast industry, but you cannot have the power, for to issue fines and ask media organizations to pay. And of course, that you have gone beyond your breeds. That's what the court has said. And so what it means for the media is that the media will now, self-regulate itself in terms of what is going to broadcast, or what's going to broadcast. What it also means is that the NBC, has effectively lost its steam to regulate the broadcast industry appropriately. And the issue in contention has to do with national security. And so it further deepens the understanding of national security and, of course, broadcasting to the people. So you have to choose between, the thin line between common good and the common interest have been extremely defined by the court. The NBC will argue that, yes, what we have done is for the common good and in the common interest of all. But of course, the media houses have also, broadcast those materials for the common good and for the common purpose. So what we are going to do now is have to see how the regulators and of course the stakeholders or the player in the industry will have to sit together and understand, what it means to satisfy the yearnings of the people within the ambit of common interests and common good. And also for students of journalism or broadcasting, they will also now need to know that there is a thin line between what we call state security issues, national interest, and of course, the interest of the media organization. So I think that's where I look at it.
Now, following this particular court's assertion that administrative and regulatory bodies cannot exercise judicial powers, what recommendations would you make for a more effective and legally sound regulatory framework for the media industry in Nigeria to address, breaches of the broadcasting code without conflicting with legal principles?
Good. As I've stated in my thesis, because I actually worked on my thesis on my PhD thesis was on the regulatory framework of NBC and political interference. What this has shown is that in my recommendation, I've argued that NBC must be autonomous. NBC must exercise its rights within the ambit of the law. And NBC, stakeholders must see NBC as a regulator, as an arbiter, not as a body that is interested in imposing fines or, of course, withdrawing licenses of broadcast organization. Because if we are partners in progress in ensuring that the people have the rights, the enable rights to listen to information, and of course that people also has the right to know, and media houses has the right to broadcast what people wants to know, then the NBC must be able now to sit down with the stakeholders to refine some of these laws, because some of these laws, what I've argued in my thesis is that some of them are opaque. These laws, these rules within the broadcasting code, we all have to sit together, and fine-tune it. And it's important for us to have a revisit of some of those key aspects of the broadcasting code that, of course, is draconian and in most cases are seen by people as part of political pressures from the regulatory authority.
All right. Now, considering the judge's emphasis on the NBC acting beyond its powers by imposing fines, what potential challenges or gaps in regulatory authority might arise in the absence of the ability to levy fines for, breaches of the Nigeria's broadcasting code? And how could these be addressed to maintain accountability, particularly in the media industry?
Yes. If you want the media to be accountable, what the NBC should do is, after, writing the media organizations about their infraction or inviting them, asking for explanation, the next thing the NBC should do is to sue those media organizations if they have contravened any of the broadcasting code. So instead of NBC acting as, somebody who is going to accuse the accuser and, of course, being the judge, that is the challenge that NBC has. And I've also argued that the only way out is for NBC to toe the line of regulating the media, the broadcast industry. Once there is an infraction that has to do with fines or withdrawal of license, NBC should go to court, because it's only the court that has judicial powers. As what happens with Ofcom in the UK, and what's also happened with National Media Commission in Ghana, where the autonomy of the regulatory authorities is expressly stated, and the stakeholders are part and parcel of that particular system. And so anything that happens in the first instance is that the stakeholders know, whoever had any infraction against the broadcasting code, for example, in the UK or in Ghana, knows the consequences of these infractions. And so he would dare not even.
Qasim, can you hear me? Okay, I guess we lost connection with...
what the media organizations now do is to also self-regulate.
All right,
media
Qasim.
organizations now should not to the bank that since we cannot be fined, then we can just behave as any way we like. No, because where there is rule of law, everybody must follow this rule to the letter. Where your right ends, that is where the right of others begins. And so media organizations on their own should have a sense of regulating themselves. They should not wait until NBC will breathe down on them. What you know is an infraction. What you know can cause, mayhem, can cause chaos or misunderstanding in the society. Media organizations must try to guard against such broadcasts.
All right. Thank you so much for your time. Qasim Akinreti, former chairman, Nigerian Union of Journalists, Lagos State Chapter. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right. Now to security matters. The Minister of Nigeria's Federal Capital Territory, FCT, Wike, on Wednesday, held a town hall meeting with residents of the Bodija Area Council over the high level of insecurity in the territory. The FCT minister said his administration will make it unbearable for bandits to operate in the FCT. Speaking in the town hall meeting with the Bodija Area Council chairman, royal fathers and residents of the area, Wike said the President Bola Tinubu has directed him and all service chiefs to explore all necessary means to bring an end to the kidnappings and killing of residents by bandits in Bodija and other areas of the FCT.
Yesterday, Mr. President summoned a high-level security meeting, which includes all the service chiefs, the ministers of defense, and my humble self, because of recent attacks, particularly in Bodija. And so security is one of the key priorities that Mr. President is the leadership agenda would want to face squarely. It is no longer going to be business as usual. Everything has to be done to protect life and property.
Coming up on the news, Rwanda President Kagame suggests UK could get money back over asylum bill. We have details of this story and more after the break. Let's go to a business story where Nigeria, the Naira actually did depreciate further on Wednesday, hitting a record low of 1,320 Naira per dollar on the parallel market, also known as the black market. The new rate represents 3.03% or 40 Naira weaker than the 1,218 Naira recorded at the close of trading on Tuesday. This depreciation marks the lowest the Naira has come to since October 26, 2023, when it reached 1,300 Naira against the dollar on the parallel market. Market analysts believe that the recent decline is due to a steady rise in demand for dollars by businesses seeking to restock goods or raw materials and individuals requiring dollars for overseas studies since the beginning of January. Now, joining me on the news to discuss this is Kenneth Ikemwa, a business and social policy analyst. Thank you so much for your time, Kenneth.
Thanks for having me on.
All right. Now, the Naira is now 1,320 Naira to a dollar. Why is the drop at an accelerated rate in recent weeks?
All right, these are interesting economic times. It should be making people like me cry. but I will just smile because I want to believe that there is renewed hope ahead of us. So let's go straight to basic economics, which my economics teacher in secondary school, late Mr. Akite, taught me. And what did he teach me? He said, when the demand for a product is quite high, the price definitely is going to go high. Consequently, he also taught me that when the supply for a product is short and the demand for the same product is quite high, the price definitely will go high. So we'll find ourselves in an economy where our consumption and national taste is geared towards things that are basically not produced in Nigeria, some of which can be produced in Nigeria, but because of quality issues, we do not patronize made in Nigeria. We're not proud of the made in Nigerian brand. And so we have to import everything, import as little as toothpicks, pencils, papers, virus, things that can be produced in this country, and things that were hitherto produced in this country. That is the microeconomics explanation for that. Now let's come to the macroeconomics explanation, which I learned in the university and which I'm still researching on. Now, when you look at the national income equation for Nigeria, the national income equation is supposed to be Y, which is national income, equals C plus I plus G plus F into bracket X minus M. Sorry, I'm taking you back to the class, but this is at least to entertain us and calm our nerves. Now, C is consumption. Like I rightly said, our consumption in Nigeria is very high, and the consumption is basically for foreign things. Because we do not have that demand for things that are made in Nigeria, things that are sourced in Nigeria, we continue to have pressure. There's this continuous pressure on our foreign exchange reserves for more and more dollars. Now, where there's no availability because of the backlog that the central bank has even failed to clear up to date, a couple of days back, we had some airlines threatening to leave Nigeria because their foreign remittances have not been made. The other option that Nigerians need to go for in order to be able to get the dollars is to go to the black market. And nothing gets cheap at the black market. So this fluctuation between, monies, the exchange that can be gotten from the banking system and from the black market is one of the reasons why we have the dollar rate, depreciating on a daily basis. I is investments, private sector driven investments. Because of the economic situation in this country and because of the security situation, although many will beg to disagree with me, you find out that we're not having as much foreign direct investment as we ought to. Most of the investments we have are actually foreign portfolio investments, which cannot necessarily drive the rate of economic development and growth that we need. Now, G is government expenditure. The government is expending quite much. If you look at the last budget, we have a budget of about 23 trillion. And from that budget, you have in the excess of about 23 trillion of that budget is actually going for recurrent expenditure, which means that the government is spending so much on things like personnel costs, overhead costs. These things have to be reduced. The size of governance and size of government and the cost of governance has to be reduced. And finally, the F is the fact that the remittances we're getting from abroad have dropped. And even when these remittances come, there is a way that the system gets to circumvent them so that they end up in the black market and not in the regular banking system. Now, X minus M basically is imports minus exports. We are not exporting as much as we need to export, meaning that our potential for export has dropped, our capacity utilization in the manufacturing sector has dropped, and we're importing much more. All of this put together put pressure on the economy and other external factors that we may, evaluate as we go on in this conversation.
All right, Kenneth, because we're pressed for time, we will not be able to continue the conversation, but we deeply appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me on.
All right. Now, the African Prosperity Dialogues 2024 is an annual dialogue organized by the African Prosperity Network with support from the African Continental Free Trade Area. In preparation for its second edition, African Prosperity Network, in collaboration with TerraCore Energy Group, organized a press conference to educate the media on its mission, vision, and objectives. Now, News Central's Perpetua Fasumi Peter was there and filed in this report.
Themed, Deliver Prosperity in Africa, Produce, Add Value, Trade. The 2024 Africa Prosperity Dialogues will be held in Ghana, the host nation of the AFCFTA Secretariat.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Africa Prosperity Network works in close collaboration with the Africa Continental Free Trade Area Secretariat, and it helps to have a visionary at the helm of affairs. Last year in January, we held our maiden dialogues, and without missing a beat, the international media started calling us the Africa WEF. We are better because we have a higher purpose for Africa. It is for Africa and by Africans.
In the wake of the challenges facing the global infrastructure development in Africa, we believe that developing a single market initiative that can propel cross-regional integration, value and infrastructure and technology sharing within Africa is one that is very, very important and critical in driving economic development and infrastructure development as well.
While identifying challenges such as interoperability and currency inconvertibility, the organizers believe that the protocols and agreements being signed by member states will eliminate these barriers to trade.
We have a number of protocols and the agreement as a whole that have been agreed by our members in terms of the state parties. But the idea is to actually harmonize the regulatory framework in terms of eliminating what we would call the barriers to trade, both in goods and services.
Nobody doubts the capacity that we have as a continent. However, translating these potential into prosperity for all Africans appear to be the puzzle that is yet to be resolved.
We need to find a way to aggregate our resources, okay? But then, if it is going to work, it is the private sector that will make it work. And it must be owned by the people of Africa. They must understand that if we integrate our economies, it is to their benefit.
By bridging the gap between Africa's private and public sectors, APD paves the way for a dynamic single market, unlocking new opportunities for businesses and citizens. In Lagos, for News Central, I am Perpetua Fasami Peter.
Business news in association with Money Master PSB, the easy way to master your money.
For the latest sports news, Onyechi Obaro is standing by.
Sports Update, brought to you by Corn Oil. Corn Oil, we go the extra mile.
In the world of sport, Côte d'Ivoire head coach Jean-Louis Gazet reckons his side will be up against a tough Super Eagles side in their opening Group B fixture at the 2023 African Cup of Nations. Côte d'Ivoire and Nigeria will face off in one of the competition's standout fixtures at Al Hassan Ouattara Stadium on Thursday. The two teams enjoyed contrasting fortunes in the opening fixtures. The Elephants defeated Guinea-Bissau 2-0, while the Super Eagles played a 1-1 draw against Equatorial Guinea. Despite Nigeria's slow start, Gazette predicts the Super Eagles will make things difficult for his team.
Talent in their squad. They have a wide array of players at their disposal. They can build several starting 11s. As for us, we have a team, a collective, that has to increase their playing level compared to the first game. We are trying to work hard, and we are going to take the game to Nigeria.
The Ghana Supporters Union have dismissed claims that they were offered $400 each to avoid boycotting their support for the Black Stars during the 2023 African Cup of Nations. The rumors of the boycott may have stemmed from misinformation spread by a particular media outlet. Sport journalists from Ghana clarified the supporters had been well taken care of by the ministry since their arrival, including being provided with the food and accommodation. Additionally, its supporter received $400, which was not intended to dissuade them from supporting the team. Finally, in the world of sport,
Sports Update, brought to you by Corn Oil. Corn Oil, we go the extra mile. Entertainment news in association with Glow Unlimited.
Nigerian rapper Phyno's remix of Do I featuring Burna Boy has hit a remarkable milestone. And that's it on entertainment.
Entertainment news in association with Glow Unlimited.
And that's a wrap on the news. I am Dakpo Adigboye.